Today, COSI is the nation's largest regional small business and sport organization and the leading advocate for small business owners in Northeast Ohio. More than 14,000 businesses are COSI members through group purchasing programs, legislative and regulatory advocacy, networking opportunities, and educational resources. COSI helps these small businesses grow. I know from personal experience how valuable COSI membership can be. My former partner Karen Spiro and I credit COSI with bringing us together almost 20 years ago to create Spiro Smith Investment Advisors. The challenges small businesses face today are very different than they were when COSI was formed in 1972, and the organization is continually evolving. Our speakers today will share with us how COSI is partnering with members, the community, and leaders throughout Northeast Ohio to give small businesses the support they need to succeed. Steve Millard is COSI's President and Executive Director. Prior to joining COSI, he was with Anderson Consulting's Strategic Services Practice, and before that was at GE's Medical Systems Business Group. He is a past chair of the Chamber of Commerce Executives of Ohio and serves on the boards of National Small Business Association and the President's Council Foundation, as well as the Cleveland Partnership of Arts and Culture. Sharon Toerek is chair of the COSI Board of Directors. Her law firm, Licata and Toerek, represents business owners at all levels of development and growth, providing support, protection, and direction on a day-to-day legal issues affecting businesses. Sharon's expertise is in intellectual property, and she is an immediate past president of the Cleveland chapter of the American Advertising Federation. Together, Steve and Sharon are leading COSI in a powerful new direction that will have a major impact on small businesses in Northeast Ohio and our entire community. Please welcome Steve Millard and Sharon Toerek.
Thanks, Bob. It's such an honor and a privilege for us to be here to talk to you today about small business and the things that we're doing to help small businesses really help drive and lead this community. And it was such a pleasure to be introduced by you, Bob, given your work both in the organization as a leader in this community. You're doing all the things that we hope all small businesses can do to help make a difference in Northeast Ohio. The City Club is a place that we're proud to call ourselves a member of as well. And I had a chance the other night. I was in Dairy Island with my 10-year-old son, and Jim Foster happened to be behind me in line, coincidentally. And so I had a chance to thank Jim for the privilege of being able to come and speak to you today, and his stewardship for the club over the last 20 years. And I'm so excited about Dan's new role here at the club as well. I think, Dan, you're going to help connect a lot of conversations and interesting things here for the club. So congratulations on that role. So why talk about small business? What's important about this topic or this issue? Why do we care about the development of small businesses in our community? You know, small business has been a constant in the American economy. It's persevered and adapted over time to continue to represent a uniquely American ideal. Small business has been a part of the fabric of our society and an expression of what's possible for America since its very beginning. When you think about how economies begin with farmers and hunters and merchants and traders, they're all hallmarks of small business, and they're all sort of the way an economy starts and begins to grow. And fortunately, over time, for us, we've seen a growth of all kinds of businesses in our communities. But in 1835, the French writer Alexis de Tocqueville wrote Democracy in America. And on his observations of the culture and the development of our country, he noted, what astonishes me in the United States is not so much the marvelous grandeur of some undertakings as the innumerable multitude of small ones. And I think that expresses a lot about how America's economy has been akin with small business growth and development over time. Predictably and thankfully, our national economy has developed over the last couple of hundred years to create scores of large employers that make huge investments in scale and productivity in our economy. And the share of employment and their investment gets great accolades and headlines. And that's not surprising, because people see those companies and understand those companies and see the scale at which they work. However, the small business community as a whole is also a significant economic contribution, and its technological and cultural development of our country. While it's an obvious statement to say that every large business started small, it's no less true. We think about Walmart and FedEx and OfficeMax and Sherwin-Williams, Ernst & Young, Apple, Intuit, and many, many more household names. They all have the unique characteristic or commonality of starting small. But the success of these companies and so many others is that many of the new technologies, disruptive innovations, and game-changing approaches that have taken root in our business and consumer economies have started with a single idea, an experiment, or an observation of opportunity by a person or a few people who then have toiled to conceive, build, and grow it. And while on an annual basis hundreds of thousands of businesses fail in the United States, and hundreds and thousands of businesses start each year with almost no chance for long-term success, small businesses still represent the promise and opportunity of our society, and as a result demand our attention, our recognition, and the support that we provide to them. Because while I can't tell you exactly which small business is going to be the next Office Max or Sherwin-Williams, I can tell you that invariably there will be a few that get there and might literally change the world. Small businesses are all around us. We know them socially, we patronize them for many of the services and support that we get in our day-to-day lives, and if you think about it for just a moment, I'm sure at least a few people will come to mind who are working out of the basements, bedrooms, and offices in the community that you live in. But you might not be aware of some of the numbers that describe who they are and what they contribute. So the Small Business Association Administration talks about small businesses as employers of less than 500 employees. But to make the point, I'll go a little further to talk about businesses with less than 20 employees. In Ohio, there are 920,000 businesses. About 75% of those firms have no employees whatsoever. Of the 26% of those that have employees, 87% have less than 20. So when we take those folks who are with employees and sole proprietors on their own, that's 97% of our state's businesses are under 20 employees. On their own, these very small companies of less than 20 represent about 20% of the employment in our state. And we look at employment of all those folks classified as small businesses, less than 500, we're talking about 48% of the employees in our country. In fact, in the United States overall, there's 27 million small businesses, 5 million of those are employers, and they provide about 49% of the employment in our country. If we think about gross domestic product, those under 500 contribute 38% of the GDP in the country, and in Ohio, our small businesses are 48% of GDP. Those under 20 drive 16% of Ohio's GDP and 13% of the U.S. That's the end of the economics lecture. But those are the numbers as we know them for small business. And these businesses are doing better in the last year or so as they come through the economic realities we all faced over the last few years. We're seeing higher confidence in Ohio in the future for small business and than we're even seeing nationally. And we're also seeing revenues stabilize and profits increasing. But beyond the economics, small business is an important expression of the American ideal. People resonate with the small business community and the needs of the small business owner. And in a time of increasing cynicism about how our country works or doesn't work and its institutions operate or don't, small business owners enjoy a respect that's really quite amazing. In fact, the Gallup organization regularly polls confidence from among the public on about 16 key institutions in the United States. Consistently, small business has been at the top of that list. Only the military is a more trusted institution in America. Other than the military, confidence in small business is higher than in any other institution, with 63% of the public having a great deal or quite a lot of confidence in small business in our country. So if we compare those results to some other institutions, how do we do? At 63%, that confidence is higher than in the church or organized religion at 43%, the presidency at 37%, our newspapers at 25%, big business at 21%, and the public has almost 5 times as much confidence in small business owners than its elected officials, which are at 13%. So whether it's the economics of the small business community or the impact they have on the discourse and discussion in our country, supporting this segment of our economy and our population continues to be really important to us. So COSE's been working, as Bob said, with small business owners for more than 40 years. Founded in 1972 as part of the Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce, COSE was created by 13 small business owners who came together to help each other. It now is an organization that reaches more than 14,000 small business owners in Northeast Ohio. So to give you a little perspective on the uniqueness of that, there's no other regional small business organization of our size in the country. In fact, COSE itself is larger than all the other metropolitan chambers of commerce across the country, with the exception of one. And as an organization, you know, we enjoy a reputation that is national, like many other institutions in Cleveland. If you talk about Cleveland and you hear about the Art Museum and Playhouse Square and the Cleveland Clinic and University Hospitals, in the small business community, you hear about COSE as you talk to other communities about the things that we're doing, because we've created something that is uniquely small business and uniquely supportive of the small business owners who work here. Key to our success has been the active involvement and leadership of small business owners themselves. The energy and insight of entrepreneurs like Bob and Sharon and others in the room today that lead and serve within our organization has allowed us to continue to innovate on their behalf throughout our history over the last 40 years. Probably best known is the work we've done over time to level the playing field on operating costs for small businesses. Our members created a first-of-its-kind purchasing cooperative for health insurance and have applied that model to a number of business operations costs like workers' comp, energy, and telecommunications and office products. And this work has literally saved small business owners more than a couple of $1 billion over the last 30 years. Our work in this area continues to be imitated and recognized in lots of places. Recently, for example, we've facilitated an expert discussion among 35 chambers across the country on what does health insurance reform mean to small businesses and how to react. A month ago, we participated in a worldwide discussion among chambers of commerce in the Middle East about energy efficiency and how you can help communities and businesses react to that. And recently, we've also been named as one of the top 10 organizations in the country working with business on energy issues. Beyond our cost savings, we do peer-to-peer education and support for small business owners. We help small business owners get together and share their pain points and share advice with each other. One small business owner helping another who's been there, done that, is the best way to help them through their issues. We have small group sessions, which we call sort of cheap group therapy for small business. And then we also have our large, long-running, 30-year-long strategic planning course, which is 9 months of one-on-one mentoring and support for small business owners that literally transform their business. And new recent collaborations with partners like Tri-C and Jumpstart and the Urban League and the Hispanic Business Center have created the opportunities to lure investment and support here. $15 million has been brought here by Goldman Sachs' 10,000 Small Businesses Initiative over the next 5 years to help small businesses who are between 4 and 10 employees and are very small and trying to grow. Those collaborations are the new way that we're helping to support small business. We've been on the front end of advocacy issues like county government reform, small business regulatory reform, municipal tax reform, and electric deregulation to help with those unvoiced and unmet needs of small business. The advocacy work we do is done on a nonpartisan basis. We have as many Democrats and Republicans and independents and a few libertarians thrown in there as well. But really, small business owners come from all walks of life with all different kinds of politics. And what we work to do is help them understand the issues and voice their needs no matter who is driving the agenda. If there's any magic to what we've done at Cozy, it's been the creation of a private sector solution to bringing small business owners together in their own self-interest to help each other achieve their own idea of success. Facilitating that connection and that voice has made a difference for them and for our community. So let me explain that for a second, because it's not just about them. Because in meeting their needs and fulfilling what they need for their business to succeed, we also get a chance to get their investment in the economic development work that's happening in this community that no one person or business will invest in. It goes far behind cost savings and networking for them. What we provide is a mechanism for giving small business owners a reason to get involved and invest in the work we do more broadly in and for our community. It's allowed a very unique partnership between small and large business that exists between Cozy and the Greater Cleveland Partnership, our Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development leader. GCP is a place where small and large business can connect to discuss, debate, decide, and fund the game-changing work that's important to grow, invest, and employ more Northeast Ohioans. In fact, I don't believe there's been a single economic development initiative in town in the last 30 years where small and large business haven't been working together to invest in those things through the partnership that we have. And over the last 40 years, small business through Cozy have invested more than $125 million in those important game-changing initiatives in our community and supported those small businesses at the same time. That engagement, I think, is a testament to the collaboration between small and large business that exists here in town, where we can almost always find a way to make the things happen that are important for our community. By putting small business at the table, however, organizations like ours also can inject some reality to policymaking and civic issues. Putting small businesses at the table doesn't happen as much as you would think or expect, especially given the kind of confidence the public seems to have in small business. But it helps us influence that dialogue that occurs on issues like entrepreneurial support or tax policy, regulation, immigration, or education, and physical development. While we've been successful in the past, we have to evolve and change like all our small business owners do as well. Where there's an environment we have more to do, more economic pressure, and less discretionary time, the old ways won't continue to sort of work for us, and if they do, they won't produce as much value. The good news is that as in the past as in the present, our small business owners are continuing to think of new ways to better support each other, to continue to ensure relevance and inspire interest and support in the organization for the work that we do. As our current chair, Sharon Toerek has been at the helm of the organization for more than 18 months and leading new strategies for Cozy. And for longer than that, she's been helping us with our executive committee with our strategy work. Sharon's going to share some of the new direction for Cozy with you.
Steve, thank you so very much. And Bob, thank you so much for that warm welcome earlier today. And I can't tell you how humbled and honored I am to be here today talking with all of you. Congratulations on your 100th anniversary, and I hope Cozy looks as great at 100 as it does at 41. So as Steve said, I'm a volunteer leader of Cozy. I've served on the Cozy Board of Trustees for over 8 years, and for the last year and a half, I've been privileged to serve as the chair of this great organization. And in my civilian life, my day job is running my own small business as a partner in the law firm of Licata and Toerek. For any of you who do it on a daily basis, you know that running a small business is a full-time job, and there's literally hundreds of opportunities for any small business owner, any professional in this room and in this community to donate their time and their talent to some deserving cause, some deserving organization. So why do I volunteer my time to serve at Cozy, and why do some of my peers who are here today with me volunteer their time to serve at Cozy? Speaking for myself, I so strongly believe in the mission of the organization, helping small business owners achieve their idea of success, whatever that might be. And we know from working with over 14,000 of them that if you know a definition of success of one small business owner, you know a definition of success of exactly one small business owner, because they're all so very unique. You know, secondly, in a time of extremely rapid change for small business owners, whether economic, technological, or competitive, I really felt a responsibility to get engaged in the work of creating a path forward for Cozy to provide the right resources to our members at the right time for them. We've got a tremendous legacy of help and support, but we know it continually needs to evolve to meet the changing needs of the small business owner. Third, we know that small business is a tremendous force, as Steve just indicated, in driving the economic vitality of our region. And so what really drives me in my volunteer service to Cozy and that of many of our other leaders is really the desire to ensure that small business takes its proper seat at that table that Steve was discussing, influencing important civic and economic development issues in our community. We have a very unique situation here in Northeast Ohio of small business and large business working side by side, GCP and Cozy together, and in other circumstances to create success for all of us. Healthy small businesses impact our bottom line economic development, one company and one job at a time, and I think it's the cumulative effect of that impact is just critical, and Cozy and its members drive that impact every day. One of the keys to serving small business owners and being effective for them is to have them directly involved in the work of delivering the products and services that we do, and that's an approach that Cozy has always embraced and continues to embrace. I serve with 25 other business owners as part of the board of directors, some of whom are here with us today, and beyond the members of the board who work so hard, there are hundreds of other small business owners that may have been involved over the course of our strategic planning, and during my term as chair, serving on committees, on task teams, and in work groups who are really focused on driving the work that we do for one another. Whether it's developing strategy, developing policy positions on behalf of small business, Cozy is truly a member-driven organization, and that's been its secret to success for over 40 years. And while we have a legacy of supporting small business, we're really today in the midst of an evolution toward becoming an even stronger resource to catalyze their success. A few years ago, as Cozy was heading toward its 40th anniversary, we wanted to take a very holistic look at the needs of small business in this community to determine how they were changing, if they were changing, and really what that meant for our work going forward. So we decided to start by convening a small business summit, which we did about 2.5 years ago. We had more than 250 small business owners and stakeholders who spent a full day together to come today to talk about the issues that were impacting the region's small businesses. And our proposition was that if we could discover a different and new way to support them and their success, we'd also be finding new ways to support the success of the community. So we believe there's a strong and clear link between these two things. And it was quite a remarkable day, and the energy and the passion and the ideation that day really exceeded our expectations. So the input from that summit was the foundation for the strategy set in place over the next 18 months that followed, led jointly by our member volunteers and our Cozy staff to evaluate the organization and set some new direction for their work. And that efforts resulted in a path forward for how Cozy can best support the success of its members and impact the vitality of the small business community and the health and success of the region more broadly. So today I want to tell you very quickly about some key areas of focus going forward for Cozy that will enable us to continue to empower small business success. Those are first, serving as a connection point for small business, a connection point to one another and to other organizations in our community to help them navigate the sometimes complicated web of resources that exists here. Second, guiding small business owners to the right resources based upon the stage of life of their business and their company. Third, providing information and facilitating research that's the basis for knowledge and expertise about small business. Additionally, adding value to their small business beyond cost savings programs. And finally, expanding our role as small business advocates by increasing our reach and strengthening the collective voice of the small business community. I'd like to talk briefly about each of these and how COSI is pursuing them. So let me begin by talking about the needs small businesses have to connect to one another and to gain access to opportunities through our other collaborative partners in Northeast Ohio. The speed of business is extremely fast today, as we know, and the issues are extremely complex, and they're challenging for individual small business owners or organizations to go it alone. There's literally hundreds of organizations and programs that exist in our region, and that's just the ones that you can see in front of you. That doesn't even regard the internet and all those resources that are available if you have the time to navigate them. And so one of the significant ways we're evolving is by being more proactive to collaborate with other organizations that also strive to help these companies. At the summit, we really heard that small business owners are extremely time deprived, and they don't always know how to find the best resource for them. COSI aims to be that navigation and connection point where you can find the answers you need and a resource to help you translate and implement those answers to your business for your needs. Think of it as sort of a concierge desk for small businesses with solutions to your business issues as they come up. And if we don't have the answer at COSI, we'll connect you to a fellow member who can help or refer you, or to a sibling organization or another organization in the ecosystem here in Northeast Ohio who can help you. We'll also continue to collaborate with these other organizations that strive to help small business. They could be corporations, they could be foundations, they could be universities, incubators, or even other local chambers of commerce, as we'll discuss in a moment. And a key to success in supporting small business is to find a way to connect as many of these support resources to one another as possible. So going forward, our goal will be to establish the state's largest network of small business owners and the resources that can help them. We want to be a key part of catalyzing that connection. Another way we're evolving is by focusing on delivering the right resources at the right time based on the stage of life of a business. Traditionally, many business support organizations might look at a company in some of the ways you are more familiar with, based on the number of employees, based on annual revenues. But at COSI, we've really come to believe that small businesses need different things at different times in the stages of their growth and development. Think about it. I know we have some marketers here in the room today, and when you look at targeting your audience, think about the amount of advertising you see that's targeted based upon your stage of life, whether you are the parent of a toddler, whether you are a golden ager, whether you're an empty nester. It is all about getting a message to you or getting you the products or services that you need based on the stage of life that you're in, and we think that approach applies to businesses as well. So we're evolving to focus on aligning the support we provide based on the stage of business for the companies that we serve. At each stage of business, there's unique priorities and unique issues, and as a result, a need for a unique set of resources and organizations to help out. Our goal is to make that connection for those small companies to help them on to the next level of success. One of the stages of business we're focusing on right now is startups and young businesses. We know COSI has the content and connections that can help newer companies clear hurdles and increase their chance of success, and we're building a model along with other regional partners to help any new or young business in need. We also think that this early intervention approach does a service to folks who are aspiring entrepreneurs who can decide sooner rather than later that business ownership might not be for them. And that's a success too in our view. It accelerates that decision process and that brings value. Our goal is not to be redundant with any other organization or resource in the community that also helps small businesses. We think there's room for all of us, and we think there's specific situations where we can help businesses that don't fit into these other organizations' portfolios, or we can work with these other organizations to help them serve these other companies as well. So as we evolve these stage of business specific resources, we'll be calling on our members for their input and to help them actually deliver some of these services, to one another. As we seek to help small business owners create their version of success, we need to lead the way in defining the needs of small business and delivering that information so that stakeholders, policymakers, and those who want to serve small business can act on it. Understanding the needs and having the data and research to understand the needs of a small business owner is the first step to being relevant and helpful to them. And so COSI will increase its commitment to being a knowledge resource about these needs and attitudes and barriers to success. We'll have a new focus on gathering and interpreting data about the needs and trends in small business that will help us create new solutions. And this is the driver of our new research initiative at COSI, from ongoing reporting on key small business economic indicators to focused looks at issues like healthcare reform, energy efficiency, or microfinance. We're committed to knowing as much as we can about the issues our members face and educating others about them as well. In addition to our focus on research, I really can't think of any better example of how we add value through education than our Small Business Convention. This is our keystone event. It's been going on in Northeast Ohio for now 7 years this year. It has grown in leaps and bounds every year and has attracted more than 1,400 attendees. It's gotten so successful, actually, that we have moved it to a more regional location. It'll be at Kalahari Resorts this year in Sandusky, and it attracts entrepreneurs and small business owners from all over the country, more specifically our region, and speakers from all over the country as well, thought leaders on small business issues. We're really proud of this event, and we're really proud that we're collaborating with other chambers of commerce to produce it as well, and it's become the largest networking and education event for small business in the Midwest. While we know that cost savings are still important to small companies, advice and support that goes beyond savings programs is critical, as Steve was mentioning. So in addition to product savings, we're working hard to create more opportunities to combine those savings with other intangible benefits. Specifically, our products and services will continue to include the opportunity to save money in many cases, but more importantly, we'll be pairing them with advocacy with policymakers and the consultation and guidance necessary to help small business owners get to the next level. There's no better example of this, I don't think, than our work in energy right now. Think about what many of you might be doing for your own businesses or even in your homes to understand your energy footprint and the emerging ways we can be more responsible with our resources. In 2012 alone, we saved our members some $2.8 million on energy costs through group purchasing discounts. But paying a cheaper rate on electricity and gas is only one piece of the puzzle. The other piece is helping them reduce their demand for that energy in the first place and getting them to learn how to use less energy in their businesses. This is a space not a lot of small businesses understand, and they've got very little access to help traditionally there. So we've been out on front on this issue for some time, developing strategies for these companies to address these needs. We're using our size and our ability to represent small business with our legislators and with other stakeholders to work with the largest utility companies in Ohio, like First Energy and Dominion East Ohio, to help them access small business owners and deliver free or low-cost energy assessments to these companies. And our final piece of assistance, because we've realized that it's not very helpful to have the data and the information if you can't afford to make the improvements, our final piece of assistance is helping the business owner finding the funding source to pay for the energy efficiency upgrades. So we're working with financial partners to create microloan programs, as well as establishing our own energy loan guarantee fund to help small business owners who don't qualify for financing traditionally make some of these upgrades. So as you can see, this is a great example of how COSI and its energy efficiency work is using the reach of our organization to combine discounts, education, consultation, and advocacy to create great results for small business. I want to take a moment to just mention the hard work we're doing to partner with other organizations with like-minded missions and goals in our region. Through our COSI affiliate program, we're now working with 15 area chambers of commerce to allow businesses to join both COSI and their local chamber simultaneously. This creates a triple win situation in our view. It's a win for us, certainly. It's a win for the chamber, and it's a win for the small business owner as we collaborate to bring more value to their local business community offerings. Joint members will get the benefit of connecting and supporting their local communities, plus access to both the chamber and COSI's content and resources, and the regional and statewide reach of COSI's small business advocacy as well. So we're doing joint outreach to small businesses in these communities, and we're learning new ways every day about how to combine our focus and efforts to the benefit of our common constituents. And if you follow COSI at all on social media, and I certainly encourage you to do that, you'll see some extremely fun photos of our street teams going out to visit these small business owners in the community to create connections. It's really a great thing to see. Beyond broader statewide partnerships, we're also advocating in our state capitol, where we're just 2 weeks ago in Columbus at our annual COSI Day at the Capitol, talking with key elected officials on many important policy issues that impact us all. So in closing, at COSI, we're really evolving based upon the principle that supporting small business is not somebody else's job, and it's not the job of any one organization or entity. Small business owners need to get engaged on their own behalves to make a difference in our community and achieve their own idea of success. And we need your involvement too, whether you're a small business owner or a stakeholder to the small business community or just a passionate advocate. We'd love to get you engaged to help small business owners in this community achieve success. That legacy of involvement and community support and volunteer leadership is something that will not change during our next 40 years of helping small business succeed and beyond. So we thank you for your support of small business, whether in your work or your community, and we thank you for giving us this forum for discussing it today. And Steve and I look forward to your questions.
Today at the City Club of Cleveland, we are listening to a Friday forum featuring Executive Director of the Council of Small Enterprises, Steve Millard, and Board Chair Sharon Toerek. We encourage you to formulate questions for our speakers now and remind you that your questions should be brief and to the point. We welcome all of you here and those listening to WCPN 90.3 FM, WCLV, WTAM, or one of the many radio stations across the country. Our television broadcast partners are WVIZ, PBS, IdeaStream. Television broadcasts at the City Club are made possible by Cleveland State University and PNC. Our live webcast is supported by the University of Akron. Next Friday, June 14th, the City Club will kick off this year's Business Leaders Series with Rex Tillerson, Chairman and CEO of ExxonMobil Corporation. On Friday, June 21st, the City Club will host a panel discussion with leading public radio news directors from around the country on breaking news and getting it right. For more information about upcoming forums, to make reservations for upcoming programs, or order a CD or DVD of today's program, please refer to the website www.cityclub.org. We are pleased to welcome guests today at tables hosted by Baker Hostetler, the Council of Small Enterprises, and Medical Mutual. We thank you for your support. Now we'd like to return to our speakers for a traditional City Club question and answer period. We welcome questions from everyone, including guests. Holding the microphone today is City Club Program Director Carrie Miller. First question, please.
Whichever of you would care to answer this non-political question. The governor has pushed the reduction of taxes on small business as a central item. There was an interesting table in the Plain Dealer just a few days ago indicating that 80% of small businesses in Ohio earn less than $25,000 a year, and that the tax savings that would emanate from the governor's proposal amounted to $100 or $200 to such people. Does your research support the idea that this tax cut for small business really has any impact on job creation in Ohio?
So a couple things there. Thanks for the easy question to start off with. Appreciate that. Overall, any sort of reduction to sort of reduce costs on small businesses is a positive thing. But as you saw on the table, we think for most small business owners, this isn't going to make a huge difference, right? I mean, you think about the amount of dollars that can actually be delivered by the percentage reductions we're talking about. Again, while as a statewide, there are some dollars there that might stimulate some activity, very few small business owners are going to get the kind of dollars from that tax break that's going to allow them to sort of create jobs. But at the same time, I mean, small business owners are paying more in regulatory costs, they're paying more in additional taxes, they are charged more for a lot of things in our community. So if we can get some benefits, great. But at this point, I think that the data is the data. The amount of dollars that you see that are going to go back to small business will be relatively minor for most of the small businesses that will be affected by this. It's up to our policymakers, our legislators, our governor, and others to decide what they think the best, combination of those resources are and where they should go. But there's not going to be a whole lot of dollars flowing directly back to most small businesses.
This question is for Steve. I did not hear you mention the word outreach to small businesses in other regions. With the programs that you have to make it so attractive for small businesses here, that should be of interest to businesses outside of this area. Can you tell me what work you are doing to attract businesses in other parts of the state and of the country, in fact, together perhaps with municipalities or the county in attracting businesses to this area?
Great question, thank you. I mean, outside of Northeast Ohio, and that's been our chartered area for most of our history, is to focus on companies in Northeast Ohio. What we've learned is the things we're doing here can have impacts across our entire state, and even in some ways nationally, especially as it's easier to move information. So I think we are being increasingly asked to come share our perspective. We got a call yesterday from Florida to come down and talk about healthcare reform. I told you one of our folks was out talking with chambers from across the world. I think small businesses, while at some level are mobile, small businesses are going to be where they where their families are, where their friends are, those things. So I don't know that we'll move mass numbers of small businesses here, but we want to make it possible for somebody who is graduating school and thinking, where do I go to start a small business, to know this is the most friendly environment to be, this is the place the most support is. And when you think about Northeast Ohio and what we have here, we have a multitude of resources for small business here. It's mind-boggling. There are literally hundreds of organizations here in Northeast Ohio to support small businesses. We have to do a better job connecting them. They're very fragmented. They don't necessarily connect with each other or have relationships. So if we can create that environment and infrastructure here, there's great hope for us to bring companies here when they're thinking about where they want to go next.
Yeah, and talking about businesses, we seem to take a great deal of pride in talking about non-profit businesses. What is the reason for that? Why do we want to de-emphasize profit? If we're not proud of ourselves, why would you expect the public to be proud of us?
Well, that's an interesting question. I think that if you spend a lot of time around small business owners, they're all very focused on profit for their own companies, but they also tend to be very interested in and focused on a balance, a life balance, and that's one of the beautiful things about owning a small business is that it can be very overwhelming and chaotic at times, but there's typically more of a sense of control. So I think small business owners are very interested in creating profit for themselves, and I think they're very generous about donating their time and their talents as well.
Mr. Millard, in recent years, there's been an increasing number of large businesses, not the kind that you represent, small businesses, who've taken their operations overseas. They claim labor costs are less, environmental regulations are less stringent, there's less regulation. Has this affected your members at all in their business? And if so, to what extent would your organization, which you say has 14,000 members, be willing to lobby on behalf of making more difficult, less desirable, for those businesses to take their operations overseas?
You know, we are in an increasingly, as we all know, global economy, and capital and labor and resources flow all over the world more easily than ever before. I don't know necessarily that we should be in the business of creating barriers to companies doing what's going to drive the value for their stockholders. However, the difference that we've seen for small businesses is a greater responsibility to step up into the community agenda. If we think about our leaders of our large companies, they are more globally taxed than ever before and have less time to drive the initiatives that are so important to our community. They still provide their capital and their time and their attention, but small business owners are bearing a lot more of a responsibility to step into civic initiatives, provide their perspective and their time. So the impact has been, obviously, you know, as companies move and opportunities change for those, our entrepreneurs have to be a lot more, I think, inventive in figuring out how to create opportunity for themselves and their companies and grow them. But one of the big gaps that we see is this ability to be involved and lead in civic initiatives, and that's where a lot of our small businesses are stepping up on a regular basis.
Sharon and Steve, thanks for your leadership of COSI. Two questions. First, what do you anticipate will be the impact of the Affordable Care Act on the creation and sustainability of small businesses? And second, speaking of this issue of outreach, educational outreach as it relates to high school and college students, to help them understand really what small businesses can be about, how they get started, how they grow, how they survive.
Let me take the Affordable Care Act, and I'll have Sharon address the workforce and youth question. But on the Affordable Care Act, I mean, that's obviously going to have an impact on small businesses. I think that one of the things that we are seeing is, one, individuals will have to have insurance, and so small businesses will have to decide what their role to play is in that. We see a change because of the federal law in terms of the benefits that are going to be available and those kinds of things. And over time, we think that small businesses are going to have to make that decision whether or not they offer insurance to their employees. But we think most are going to continue to do that because the reason small businesses provide insurance to their employees will be the same before and after the Affordable Care Act. It's about keeping great employees. It's about a responsibility they feel to it and those kinds of things. So we will have change. There will be an impact. There's a lot of new regulations and rules people are going to have to understand and figure out. And we're there to help small businesses work through that. In fact, our biggest focus the next half of the year is going to be on helping to educate and prepare small businesses for what they're going to see ahead. So it will be an impact. It will change the market a lot. And maybe in the very small part of the market, you'll see a lot more of a drift towards individual insurance and people being more aware of those things. And over time, maybe a change in the cost structure. But in the short term, it's adapting to the new regulations, which is going to be the biggest focus.
I would say on the workforce development and on the training of next generation of potential entrepreneurs that I think we've done a few good things. They may be more grassroots than actually formalized within the four walls of COSI, but first of all, we have hundreds and hundreds of active and engaged volunteers who go out and deploy in the community elsewhere and volunteer their time on leadership development at high schools, at colleges, in internship training programs. So that's one sort of grassroots way that the small business community deploys to help train the next generation. And additionally, we are always looking at ways informally to try to figure out how to help small business owners take advantage of interns, students, to both train them and become, apprentices, the next generation of new entrepreneurs. So we're always open to new ideas about how to best engage, but I would say that our strongest success, probably in many areas of the organization, but specifically to your question, is the way we deploy high quality and engaged business leaders throughout the community to impact our next generation.
Thank you guys for coming and for the great work COSI's done on energy efficiency. Real leaders in the area. Just wanted to ask, we know that there's a lot of benefits that businesses can get and a lot of money that can be saved on energy efficiency, but what can be done to help small business access these kind of upgrades? Obviously capital intensive on the front end, but we have heard from, in one example, the Cleveland Orchestra working with First Energy. They've over 4 years been able to cut their utility bills in about half, and just like to maybe hear more about that, the points on that.
So I think there's a number of things here. What we're finding is that as we go out and do audits, literally we're on track to do about 400 audits just this year for small businesses. When you identify the opportunity for them, it doesn't help if the resources aren't there to take the next step. And these aren't big numbers by typical standards. It might be a $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 project, but those dollars aren't in the couch cushions for most small business owners, right? So we have to figure out a way to make that happen, and we're looking at how do you do it on their utility bills. So how do you create a situation where what they install and put in is going to reduce the cost of their electricity or gas and fund the improvement itself? You have to create loan terms that are going to allow it to happen. The other thing that we're doing is working with banks and others to understand the opportunity here. There's real opportunity, but the numbers are usually so small that a lot of institutions don't want to focus on them. So we're trying to educate our bankers, and there are a few bankers in town who are doing a great job in this space, and we're trying to get more of them engaged. And we're trying to help them understand that these projects are very low default risk. They're very good if they're well managed, and organizations like us can help shepherd people through that process to create a really superior financial return for the bank and a great value for the small business owner. The other thing we're finding is that once they do their first project, they do their second and their third project. And we're using local small businesses who do these projects so that we're keeping those dollars local and feeding the ecosystem so it continue to grow. We're in the very early stages here, but it's really exciting work, and we hope our utilities and our banks will jump in with us more aggressively.
Thank you both for coming, and to return to small business taxes for a minute. The flip side of the small businesses that have $25,000 in income is those that go over $100,000 and get into the tax brackets of 5% and 6% effective rate. And most small businesses return as individuals, not as companies. Is that a driver of jobs to other states? And if it is at those marginal rates, is COSI involving in any way to try to find solutions to that, or is it make any recommendations that might help the governor and the legislature work through this?
Yeah, I think, again, as you said, that the small percentage of companies are at that higher end to get opportunities for this particular tax proposal. But I think what we're trying to do in our state overall is look at every way to make it a better place to do business. And I think we've made great progress there over the last few years. Any specific tax proposal is going to have its pros and cons, but I think if we think about a state where we simplify our tax structures through some of the municipal tax reform work that you're starting to see is happening right now, we look at ways to make energy more affordable, we take advantage of things like the shale opportunities that we have in this state, this becomes a place that begins to attract people as they put businesses in place versus a place that has barriers to doing business. So, you know, there are lots of ways we can do this. This particular proposal has its opponents and proponents, but I think that as a state, if you look where we are now versus 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, we are closer to being a place people will look at to bring their capital than a place where they look past and sort of move on.
And I would just add to that that the challenge of looking at tax policy or really any advocacy issue that relates to or affects small businesses is that we've got 14,000 members, and I'm speaking as a volunteer here. No policy will impact them all identically. And so what we have to do as we take a look at these issues in a nonpartisan way is to determine whether they'll have a common effect on most of our members, and if so, whether it makes sense for us to engage and take positions on those issues. And so we do that. We have a very engaged advocacy committee, and we take very thoughtful looks at each policy issue, tax or otherwise, depending upon how we think it's going to impact our members.
I would urge you to toot your horn a little more loudly on a particular point.
Sure.
You have mentioned but understated COSI's honored role as an institution that helped break ground on the very idea of health insurance purchasing cooperatives, an idea which today finds a national incarnation in the health insurance exchanges, which the Affordable Care Act invites every state to form. And I ask you if you would comment on how Ohio is moving forward to come up with a health insurance exchange which small businesses and others, I think even individuals, can participate in. I heard today that California is getting lower rates estimated from the insurance companies that will be bidding to participate in the exchange than had been expected. So on that, I would ask on how Ohio is moving on the insurance exchange. I'd ask your opinion. And if you want to touch on the Medicaid expansion issue, feel free to do so too.
I will say that the next few months are going to be fascinating to sort of watch. I think Ohio joined about 25 other states to decide to allow the federal government to build and drive the exchange here. And the government is going through that process. They continue to talk about the fact that they will be on time with that, and we hope that that's going to work. And so October 1st, it'll be up and running. This is a tough place for, all the rules have changed here, and they continue to change even on an ongoing basis. I think the exchanges offer the promise of creating a place where people can get access to information on an apples-to-apples basis and begin to understand what their options are. Some of you are very familiar with this, but think about Expedia, if you will, in the travel space for health insurance. That's what our exchanges are going to produce. I think the challenge for us is to figure out how to do all this and manage the impact on small businesses. And today in Ohio, under the current rules, your lowest to highest cost insurance is 17-time differential. So if you're very healthy, you'll be paying 1/17 of what you are if you're very unhealthy. And what these exchanges will do and healthcare reform will do is balance that out to a 3-to-1 differential. What that means is that those who are paying the very least today will pay a lot more, and those who are paying a lot will pay maybe the same or a little bit less. That's the impact we're going to see, 40, 50, 60% rate increases when healthcare reform comes in. I'm not saying it's good or bad. The policy decision we've made as a country is we want everybody to have insurance, and we're going to fund folks who can't afford it to get it. And so as we implement that, it's going to be really important to educate people because nobody buys this stuff. I mean, you know, most folks don't buy their own insurance, their employer buys it. So we have to educate millions of Americans on health insurance and at the same time manage huge change in the marketplace in how we do this. So it's going to be an interesting and exciting place to be. I think 3, 5, 7 years from now, we'll all have a better appreciation for the costs, and you'll begin to see behavior modification and cost changes in the provider community. But the ride there is going to be pretty bumpy.
Steve and Sharon, thank you so much for joining us here at the City Club. We really appreciate it. Sharon, you said that you've got 14,000 members, all of whom are impacted in different ways by every policy conceivable. And you guys have also talked about how you do a lot of advocacy and lobbying in Columbus and Washington. So what are you lobbying for? What specifically are you pushing for? And I mean, maybe you can just give us the top 3 and maybe the top 3 past victories that nobody knows you were involved in.
Sure. Well, we're just 2 weeks off of our Cozy Day at the Capitol in Columbus, and since it's fresh in my mind, I can tell you about some of the things we were talking about there. First of all, energy finance and the ability to make it easier and to make access to capital available in general for small business, but in particular on the issue of making energy efficiency improvements in small businesses. So we're talking to legislators about that and got a lot of interest there. Harmonization of the municipal income tax structure in the state of Ohio. Ohio's got one of the most complicated municipal income tax structures in the country. And so we were talking about the harmonization issue. And I'm going to chime in.
Healthcare reform regulation, making sure that as these rules get written, small businesses are at the table and we can deal with the issues that nobody understands. I would challenge almost any large business insurance expert knows nothing about the small, fully insured marketplace. So it's very different for small business owners. On immigration at the national level, as they think about solutions there, there's a system called E-Verify that small businesses are going to have to participate in. The error rates are astoundingly high on that system. So if we go to this new national approach, we're going to really have to make sure that that works. So a small business owner isn't put in a legal and economic limbo with employees who may come up with a false positive, but might really be entitled to work in the United States. We're looking at lots of ways to sort of, again, deal with regulatory reform. Common Sense Initiative in Ohio has been really a quite great success story. There are lots of old regulations that impact small businesses in ways that we don't even remember because they were enacted so long ago. And we have literally found dozens of places where we can create change for small business by getting rid of stuff that just doesn't make sense anymore. So, and then in workers' compensation, the areas of fraud and abuse are something that we're trying to focus on. The workers' compensation program in the state actually performs overall quite well as you compare it to other states, but there are areas of it that are antiquated and need to be updated. So we really, one of the fortunate things for us is we work with so many businesses on the day-to-day operational issues in their business. We can go in firsthand and talk about what it really means to a small business who has to sort of sit down with an employee on a healthcare issue or deal with an energy upgrade in their facility or walk through the process of an employee being hurt on the job and what that means to them. It's not just policy to us. We not only operate those programs, we help guide the rules for them.
And I would add to that at the federal level, I know that Sandy Cutler was here a few weeks ago talking about fix the debt and the national concern over our escalating federal debt. And at the federal level, along with our federal advocacy partner, NSBA, there's a great deal of attention being paid to the impact the increasing deficit has upon the success of small business, and many of whom are government contractors, and the debt and the sequestration affects them directly.
So.
Oh, here.
Go right ahead.
Thanks for coming. We've heard that we are a high tax state, and I wonder if you could provide more data on whether we are indeed taking all taxes into account, recognizing some states don't have taxes but have very high sales taxes, sometimes exceeding 10%, 11%. But if you take all of that into account, how do we stand with other states?
We are a complicated tax state. We're a state that it's not easy to comply effectively. We rank above most states, maybe not the highest state. I don't have specific data in front of me to share with you, but we are definitely not leading the country in the area of making this, as tax friendly and business friendly as we can. I think things like municipal tax reform will make it simpler. It might not necessarily reduce the rate, but we have a system in our state where you add taxes, state, local, municipality, they stack on top of each other in a way that makes it challenging for us as we compete with our neighbor states. We can worry about China, we can worry about Mexico, we can worry about other places, but I think for us right now, we have to worry about Indiana and worry about Pennsylvania and worry about the folks that are right across the border where labor can move and where product can move more easily. So, there's lots of data out there, but generally our feel is that there's opportunity for improvement there.
Today at the City Club, we have been listening to a Friday forum featuring Steve Millard, President and Executive Director of the Council of Small Enterprises, and Sharon Toerek, Chair of the COSI Board of Trustees. Thank you, Steve and Sharon. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This program is now adjourned.